with psychic medium Mark Anthony. During the commercial break, you said, you know, spirits don't wait for commercial breaks or on our time. You had somebody come through,
Yes.
and you asked her, and go ahead and repeat that.
I'm picking up a younger male, and I feel that he did take his own life. And the reason that I'm feeling that is when I get an abrupt impact sensation to my body, that indicates to me unexpected, sudden passing, but I'm also getting suicidal ideation with him. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, if you could hold the microphone up a little bit.
Yes.
Thanks. And I'm also getting an M name that feels like Mike or Michael, something close to that. Does that name make sense to you in any way?
Yes.
Okay, in what way?
His middle name.
His middle name, okay. All right. What I get with him is he had a really diffuse attention span. In other words, it was real difficult for him to pay attention to one thing at a time. It's almost like he was like this ADHD type of personality. Does this make any sense?
Yes.
He also wants you to know that there was something going on with him, and I get that people who take their own lives are depressed, but there was something very, very weighing him down heavily, and he went from like this really bright, upbeat personality to this really morose, very, very negative self-image.
Yes.
Okay? And it seems like, was he afraid of fire, or was there something about a fire? Were you ever in a fire or him in a fire? He keeps showing me fire and smoke.
The way he passed.
Okay, was it asphyxiation?
He drove off of a bridge, and his truck went up in front of him.
Okay, smoke and fire. And now I want to clarify things. So I get the smoke and fire. That's not like I'm in hell. Okay, that's not that archetypal hell. This had to do with him and with the passing. He wants you also to know that this was really not a planned event. This was an impulsive behavior. And what I'm getting with him, it's as if there was an organic mental illness going on with him. And by organic, what I mean is his actual brain was changing. The electrical flow through his brain, the thought process is going from a happy personality to this very, very disturbed, it's just
like true mental illness or clinical
depression.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's exactly, Deborah. And this is why this was not a rational, planned act. This was an impulsive behavior. He also, though, wants everyone to know that it wasn't their fault. There wasn't their fault, and he's focusing particularly on his dad. Okay, all right, I can see that that's resonating, because his father, he's indicating that his father is really blaming. Is there a name like a D name, like a Dan or a Dave?
David.
David? Okay, David. Who's David?
His dad.
His dad. Okay. All right. Tell David. Tell Dad. David, Dad, don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself. He said, you didn't do this. You didn't make me do this. And what's with you and the bunny rabbits? I guess that's a yes.
Okay, so I had a love of bunny rabbits when I was little. And
Oh, that's good, because I was picturing you in a little bunny costume on a magazine cover.
Hey, that could be your Easter show.
When I was 10, he wanted to get me one, and of course my parents said no. And so he actually did get me a little bunny outfit. But he wore it to give it to me. And for that Easter, he was the Easter bunny for all of the younger kids in our family.
Aww.
That is cool. I want to touch on something real quick, Mark Anthony, because people ask me all the time, how does he feel about people who take their own lives? You know, and for me, I see people who are so in pain. I could see why somebody would do that, but this idea that they're going to hell because of it.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's no one size fits all. Let me explain something real quick. The way spirits work with me, when a spirit gives me a message of an explanatory advisory nature, and he wants you, and if his dad's listening to the show, but he wants you to tell him, Dad, it wasn't your fault. Okay, that's the advisory message. And when a spirit immediately follows it up with an objectively verifiable fact, bunny rabbits, that verifiable fact is how the Spirit's letting you and I know that we have properly received and interpreted the message. And now Deborah brought up an extremely important, and we did this on the show with Robin Williams. I think that was last year, or the year before. I can't believe Robin Williams. In Evidence of Eternity, my latest book, I explain that there's no one size fits all for suicide. And the reason for that is, think of on 9/11, when people were jumping out of the Twin Towers. Those people didn't want to die that day, but they were faced with a horrifying reality of being burned alive. So the perception for people who are suicidal is that the reality that they are in is so horrific, so unacceptable, so intolerable that the only option is to cease their consciousness. So the folks that were jumping out of the Twin Towers, they didn't want to die, but the choice was a horrible death by being burned alive, or jumping, which is, you know, not a great option, but it's going to be over in a second. So with your cousin, the reality that he was going through because of a mental illness was so horrific, it overwhelmed him when he was driving, and the impulse was to take his own life. And that's why he doesn't want anyone to feel guilty about that. He also would like his family to know, and I'm not just saying this to make you feel better, but he showed me the image of a white dove. And to me, a white dove means Holy Spirit, means peace. He is in the peace, and he has found the peace that so eluded him. Now, who's the one that works with the technology and the gyroscopes and the engineering? He's focusing on that.
There's a lot of us that were in IT and engineering stuff, a lot of us.
Verifiable fact, following a message. But there's a female in particular that's close to him. I don't know if that's you, but he's showing like facts, figures, data compilation, and something to do with guidance systems. Does this make any sense?
My dad.
Your dad?
He worked on the Doomsday computer.
The Doomsday computer?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
With that,
Well, I think
Things are going real good here. So with that said, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.